Shalom. I'm going to start out this video by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that rule well, that teach well while learning truth, 100% according to the Bible. I also want to say shalom to the elect, the 144,000 men, prophets, servants scattered abroad the four corners of the earth. And shalom to the Akwaf, which are you sisters that are sincere in your children. Shalom. And I got another video from the brother Arrows of Indignation 144, kind of going to be building off the video he uploaded, where you basically got, things getting bad out here in this place, America, man. We're coming into the time of Jacob's trouble, as it tells us about in Jeremiah 30:7. It says how alas for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, man. So we're stepping into those times, man, where, all hell is getting ready to break loose in this place, America, Babylon the Great. So, I basically got this video and we're going to play it, and then I'm going to get a few precepts, and Lord's willing to be edifying to you, Akim and Akwaf, that may come across it. So with that being said, fair use under 1976 Copyright Act, not getting paid for this video. This is only for educational purposes only.
Are not actually federal law enforcement officers. Let me repeat that again. They are wearing masks because they are not actually federal law enforcement officers. They are local white supremacist groups that are volunteering their services to take out brown people. This man was spotted in the ICE raid in Minneapolis today. The vast majority of those agents, whether they were ICE, DHS, AFT, or local police, were unmasked.
Right? I'm going to sit the phone down real quick. But you basically got a gist of what it is the woman was just saying in the little article that she was speaking about, that, these so-called ICE agents that are coming down upon the Northern Kingdom, they are not even, police officers, or they're not even government officials. These are just basically, neo-Nazi or white supremacist groups that Trump is basically giving authority to ultimately to come down upon you Israelites, man. And like I said before, all of this is going into the time of Jacob's trouble and Esau getting ready to come down with that great wrath. As it says in this scripture, this is Revelation chapter 12, verse 12. Therefore rejoice ye heavens and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil, right, Esau Edom, is come down unto you, having great wrath, right? And he's already showing that wrath, which goes into extreme anger towards the northern kingdom. And we know that he's about to come after the southern kingdom next, which are you so-called black people, because he's already said that. That's why he's doing all of these different deals around the world with all of these private prisons, like the guy at El Salvador, doing deals with him, opening up and doing deals with Guantanamo Bay. Also him trying to reopen Alcatraz prison is ultimately to send a lot of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians to these places, right? And this is the reason why he's coming down with that great wrath, because he knoweth that he have but a short time, right? So he ultimately knows he only has a short time to try to implement and put in his new world order before ultimately the Lord comes and, ultimately take this man down, because we're getting closer and closer to the ending of his eon, or his age, his rulership, him being in power. And he knows that, right? As it says in this scripture, this is 2nd Esdras chapter 6. And I'm going to start at verse 7, right? It says, Then answered I and said, What shall be the pardon asunder of the times? And when shall be the end of the first, and the beginning of it that followeth? Verse 8, And he said unto me, From Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. Verse 9, For Esau, which are the so-called white people today, is the end of the world, and Jacob, right, meaning you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, or Specklebirds that may look like the heathen nations, but your seed line goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's the beginning of it that followeth. And that's what Esau Edom knows at the end of the day. They know the prophecies on the left-hand side. So that's why he's ultimately getting ready to come down like a madman upon you Israelites, man. He's showing no pity. He's having no mercy, because he knows that he only has a short time to rule. So those horns are getting ready to, protrude out of this man's head, and he's about to show who he really is, and that's why I'm gonna get this precept right here. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 12, verse 10, also known as Sirach. It said, Never trust thine enemy, right? Who is our enemy? Esau Edom, the so-called white man. A lot of you Jakes out there, especially of the Northern Kingdom and the Southern Kingdom. You people voted for this man, put him in office thinking that, he was going to make America great again like he promised you people. And look what he's doing, man, coming down upon you people severely, taking away your food stamps, taking away your benefits, taking away all your jobs and all of these different things that you people have getting by with in this society. He's stripping it away from you people, man, because he's showing you that he really never cared about you, right? So it says, never trust thine enemy, for like his iron rusteth, so is his wickedness, right? And we know as the worse our iron gets, the worse it becomes. That's the same thing with this man's behavior. As we get closer to the downfall of his society, the more he's going to show himself to be evil, man, and to be the wicked, which is what he is, right? So, yeah, I'm going to get back into the video so we can finish watching it. But, yeah, man, this man is about to, just show himself for who he really is, man, which is the devil. Right. And the reason all of these things are happening to you, Jakes, man, is because this place is not our rest, man. As the men of the Lord, the prophets that are set up to warn you, Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, have been telling you from the beginning, man, starting with the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, warning you people that this man is the devil and that he doesn't care about you. So that's why I'm going to pull out this scripture. This is Micah chapter 2, verse 10. It said, arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. Mainly talking about you Israelites. This place is not our rest. We wasn't brought over here, to thrive. We wasn't brought over here to this place to be treated equally and fair and all of these other different types of things. We wasn't brought over here to, ultimately enjoy the American dream, man. We was brought over here to pay out our debts, man, for disobeying Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. And I'm going to go to a precept just proving that, right? But I'm going to finish reading. It says, because it is polluted, it shall destroy you even with the sword destruction. So like I said before, this place is not our rest, man. This place is wicked, man, because you have the wicked ruling it right now, right? But this is Baruch 3:8, just touching on what I said about, ultimately this not being our rest and us being brought over here to ultimately serve out punishments, man, right? Baruch 3:8, it says, behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, talking about this place, Babylon the Great, America, man, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payments according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord our power. So that's why we find ourselves in this situation here in America, being treated like nothing, going through the hell and all of the things in which it is that we're catching, man, is because this place wasn't set up for us to succeed or to win or to get ahead. This place was ultimately designed, by Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, because like I said, we're up under the curses, as it tells you about in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15, all the way down to 68. About those curses that befall us if we, turned our back from our power. And that's why we find ourselves in this situation, being treated unfairly, being hauled off into all of these different prisons, the Northern Kingdom being shipped off into different places like El Salvador and etc. The Lord is ultimately the one that's controlling all of this. That's why we tell you Israelites, to, turn back to the Lord, man. And I'm going to go to that precept real quick, right? This is Sirach chapter 5, verse 7. It says, make no tarrying to turn to the Lord, man. Right? Because you see how bad it is out here in this place, America, and it's only going to continue to get worse. That's why we tell you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American men and women to turn back to the Lord, man. And stop, prolonging it. We're giving you the true names. We're giving you your heritage. We're letting you know who you are according to the Bible, your true nationality, the true names of the Heavenly Father and His Son, and you people just putting it off, man. Right? So it says, and put not off from day to day, for suddenly shall the wrath of the Lord come forth. And who's the Lord is going to use to bring forth that wrath, meaning his extreme anger? He's going to use Esau Edom, man, which is, the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan on the left-hand side. He's the whooping stick of the Lord. So the Lord is going to use Esau in these last days to ultimately bring forth a lot of judgment and punishment upon you wicked Israelites, man. So that's why this stuff is really going on, right? And it says, suddenly shall the wrath of the Lord come forth, and in thy security thou shalt be destroyed and perish in the day of vengeance, man. Right? So, yeah, I just wanted to get that precept, but I'm going to get back into the video. But, yeah, like I said, this is the time to, be getting closer and closer to the Lord. You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, because this man Trump is not playing, man. And it's only a matter of time before he come after the so-called Southern Kingdom, which are, the so-called black people. This man is really about to show who he really is, man. And he's not hiding it, But you people still want to believe that this man's your friend and things of that nature, until he come kicking in your door.
The Chicago Police Department takes no issue on these Gestapo individuals coming and stepping on an elected official. Who did they protect and who did they serve? These are people who came to renew their work permits and were abducted. I'll give you a few cases. Now we have a mother who came in here to renew their work permit. We have a 10-year-old boy now without a mother. Shame. Who is going to take care of that mother now? Or that child? So if you think that this does not concern you, let me tell you something else. These Proud Boys, these Gestapo cowards who come to our city to stand on people's rights, you know what it does when they're doing it? Because they're getting bonuses to do it. Your tax dollars are paying $42,000 per Proud Boy to conduct these shameful actions. $1 billion to pay these shameful individuals. I call on these masked individuals to unmask themselves. Unmask yourself if you are so proud of what you're doing. Unmask yourself. We saw how many mothers came in. Almost 20 people, working people, being treated as criminals. The real criminals are in the White House.
So let me put this simpler, since TikTok is restricting every single post I put out. If governors do not deploy their National Guard to secure their city streets, there will be armed rebellion all across the nation. The intimidation and the violence is...
Right, and you just heard what it is that the guy said, man. And that's what's about to happen. As you can see from what Jake in the beginning of the video was talking about, you could tell the Northern Kingdom, getting ready to look like they're ready to fight against these people, man. And we know that all of these things will take place because this is all what the Lord have set up to be taking place in the last days. This is going into that nation against nation, as it tells you about in St. Matthew 24:7, which goes into the race wars, the class wars, the civil wars, sedition among men, people uprising against the government and the authorities. All of these things are soon about to take place, and we're ultimately seeing the beginning stages of these things taking place. This is going into the time of Jacob's trouble, man. As I said earlier, that's what all of this stuff is ultimately leading to, right? And who is Jacob? You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. That's why you're the main ones that's suffering, from everything that it is that Trump is ultimately putting into place. That's why it's called Jacob's trouble. It's not going to affect these so-called Edomites as bad. It's going to affect you Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians the worst, man. Because that's who ultimately this devil has his extreme hatred towards, man. Right? So I'm going to go to a precept just touching on that. Because this is what's about to stem from all of this, man. Those race wars, man. So it just proves closer and closer that we're getting to that time of all hell getting ready to break loose in this place, America, man. Right? This is Isaiah chapter 19, verse 2. KJV. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, right? Talking about these people here in Babylon the Great, these so-called Americans, man. These people are the modern day Egyptians, because this place is called spiritually Sodom and Egypt, right? And it says, and they shall fight everyone against his brother and everyone against his neighbor, city against city and kingdom against kingdom, man. That's what's about to come to this place, America, man. This is what you're soon about to see, because it's only going to be a matter of time before these Jakes continue to allow these so-called Proud Boys, these Edomites to continue to keep harassing and, ultimately deporting them, man. They're going to eventually take a stand, and, that's when you're going to have all hell breaking loose. And this is ultimately what Esau Edom wants, man, because he wants to have a reason to try to implement in his martial law and his military. So like I said, it tells you that in 2 Corinthians 2:11, let Satan get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices, meaning his schemes, his tricks, his plots, his tactics, man. And this is what he wants to happen. He wants civil unrest to take place in this country, America, so he can have a reason to try to lock it down, which is his goal anyway for his new world order, right? So I'm going to go to another precept just touching on those race wars, man, because this is what's about to stem from all of this deportation stuff that's happening, man. It's about to get real gritty and violent out here in the next coming weeks, days, or months, man, So bear with me. I'm going to go to 2nd Esdras, chapter 15. All right, and I'm going to start at verse 14. It said, woe to the world and them that dwell therein. Verse 15, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. right? Meaning it's fastly approaching. It's about to come soon, and we can see the writing on the wall with everything that's happening in this place, America, that it's about to be civil unrest in a moment, right? And it said, one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands, right? Verse 16. And it says, for there should be sedition among men, right? And that's what's about to happen, man. You see how the Northern Kingdom is ultimately, basically calling out, these Proud Boys and these other, different type of, Edomite militias that are ultimately coming after them, and eventually we know that all of these people are being hired by Trump, man, by the government. So that's going into your sedition among men, where people are going to be rebelling and fighting against the authority, man, right? And it says, and invading one another, they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. And this is ultimately what those elites want, because like I said, once all hell and civil anarchy begins to take place in this country, America, then they get to implement that Insurrection Act of 1807 that Donald Trump has put on the board, which gives the military the authority to come in and patrol these cities, which is martial law. And that's ultimately what they want to happen anyway, right? That's what it says in this precept. This verse 17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. And that's going to be due to all of the violence that is going to be taking place, ultimately due to these cities being, secured and boarded off, due to the military being at certain checkpoints. Is going to be locked down in this country, man. And that's all part of Esau's agenda, right? And it says, verse 18, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. So ultimately, all of this goes back into the pride of the people, the wickedness of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. Ultimately, why the Lord is allowing this devil to do what it is he's doing. And it is ultimately a part of prophecy, and ultimately, as I read early in 2nd Esdras 6 and 9, to further and pushing us closer to bringing down this devil's society, man, right? So, yeah, I'm going to get back into the video so we can just watch a little bit more. But, yeah, bad times are coming, man. It's all written out. Those with the spirit on them can see it. Disaster is soon about to come upon this place, America, man.
Escalating, perpetrated by Homeland Security, FBI, DEA, and ATF. And people are starting to push back. And contrary to what Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, and eventually Carolyn Levitt will tell you, this pushback has been mostly peaceful.
Salakia.
So far. But we are literally living on top of a powder keg. And my...
Salakia for that, brothers and
sisters.
sisters.
Who command control of their National Guard is to de-escalate what is currently being escalated by the federal government, to prevent an armed rebellion. And to be frank,
right, so you basically got a gist of what it is the guy's saying. He basically saying that, all of this is being controlled and orchestrated by the government, man. That's when that Ordo Ab Chao thing come in, man, because that's what Esau Edom does, He ultimately creates the problem. Then he sees how the people react to it, which is what you see the Northern Kingdom doing. They're being fed up and not ultimately, agreeing with what's happening. A lot of people, even Edomites, are not agreeing with what's happening because they know it's wrong at the end of the day. But that's when Esau going to come in as Superman like he always does. He creates the problem, looks at the reaction of the people, then he comes in with a solution. And his solution, which is what he ultimately wants, is, like I said before, to lock this place down, to have everybody, ultimately chipped up and to be monitored and to have control over them. That's the basically the agenda of this man, and that's what he's pushing towards. His new world order, draconian system where everybody is, ultimately being surveilled and being controlled, man. That's ultimately the end goal of this man, and that's what he ultimately wants to bring forth, So, yeah, I'm going to get back into this video. Lord's will, it can play through, I meant to say, Salakia. Phone stopping by itself,
Frank, the governor should have done this 4 months ago. The moment that HSI, DEA, FBI, ATF, and mass unknown accomplices were seen abducting people off of the street with no judicial warrant. entrapping immigrants in court while they're going through the legal process to secure their residency. Because when peaceful revolution is impossible, violent revolution is inevitable. So do your duty, governors, and try to de-escalate violence. Support and defend.
Right. So you just heard what it is he said. He said when they can't do it peacefully, then it only turns violent. And that's what's about to happen, man. This stuff is about to get violent, man, very soon, man. You know, and I'm going to go to another precept just basically touching on that violence that's about to come, man, because this is about to turn into race wars, man. This is going to turn into class wars. This is going to turn into that sedition among men and people fighting against one another. You know, this is what we're coming into in this place, America. You know, this place, America, as people know it, is about to be turned upside down, man. And it's all being divinely orchestrated by Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. You know, the Lord tells us that in St. Matthew 10, verse 34, you know, think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. Representing people being at odds, people being at variance, people being divided against one another. And that's what we're seeing all in this place, America, you know. Right, so this is 2nd Esdras 13 and 31. And one shall undertake to fight against another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another, and one realm against another. Right? So, like I said before, you know, brothers and sisters, this is the time period in which it is we're living in. These are the things that are about to befall upon this place of America. And you ultimately want to be getting closer and closer to the Lord in these times. Because, like I said, it's only a matter of time before all hell breaks loose in this place. So, you know, that's pretty much everything I had to say with today's video. Lord's willing to be edifying to the next time I'm say Shalom.